Thank you very much. So it's an honor to be with you. We'll discuss a couple of points. We'll take some questions later if you'd like. I'm sure you might have one or two. I'd be shocked if you didn't. I'd be very impressed. But I'm honored to welcome one of the most accomplished business leaders of our time, the founder and CEO of SoftBank, everybody knows, Masa Yoshi-san. Masa runs one of the largest companies in Japan and among the most successful investment and technology companies anywhere in the world, one of the most successful investors in the world. And we've just concluded a very productive meeting, and today I'm thrilled to announce that SoftBank will be investing $100 billion in America, creating 100,000 American jobs at a minimum. And he's doing this because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election. And many other people are also coming in with tremendous amounts of money. You probably noticed that a poll was just taken. It's business is literally in 39 years, there's been nothing like it. It's been the biggest increase. Small business owners gave it a 41% jump. It's the biggest jump that we've had in 39 years. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. And it's just, they're very optimistic. This historic investment is a monumental demonstration of confidence in America's future, and it will help ensure that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and other industries of tomorrow are built, created, and grown right here in the USA. One of the beautiful things about Masa is he's very much involved with emerging technology. He probably knows it maybe better than almost anybody. So it's a great honor. And some of you remember after the 2016 election, also SoftBank committed to invest $50 billion in our country, and they did. And I'm very pleased to say that they kept that promise in every way, shape, and form. And now they're looking to do 100. And I've looked at their books. They do have the possibility of doing more. I'm going to ask them to do a little bit more. But first, I'm going to ask him to speak and just to say a few words. Masa, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited. I would really like to celebrate the great victory of President Trump. And my confidence level to the economy of the United States has tremendously increased with his victory. So because of that, I'm now excited to commit this $100 billion and 100,000 jobs into the United States. This is double of last time, as President Trump said. Because I say, oh, President Trump is a double down president. I'm going to have to double down, you know, $100 billion and 100,000 jobs. This is, you know, my confidence level, because that has doubled down. So I am truly excited to make this happen. And of course, business is important, technology is important. But one more thing I'm really hoping is that this President Trump would make the world, bring the world into peace again. That's my additional hope. And I think he will actually make it happen. So anyway, I'm excited to go, and we were discussing, and President Trump said, Masa, you know, double down is not enough. Maybe, you know, go for more, right?
That's what I'm going to ask him right now. Would you make it $200 billion instead of that? He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but, you know, he's now asking to do more. I think, you know, with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
That's good.
All right.
200. He'll make it happen. 200 billion investment.
he is a great negotiator.
He's a brilliant guy and did an unbelievable job, and the people of Japan and all over the world are very proud of him. They have tremendous respect for him. So when he does what he just did, and I would be surprised if it what didn't go to two. When you say you'll try, I know you'll do it.
I will really try.
Yeah.
And I need your support, though.
You'll have my support.
All right.
You'll have our country's support.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you, Masa, very much.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
Do
you.
you want to
Great
say hello
event.
to the people of Japan who are all watching?
Well, I'm sure our people in Japan are proud to make the partnership of U.S. and Japan be stronger. And I'm very excited to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you. It's amazing. It's a great gentleman, a great leader, and a great investor. So to have that offer made, and we have so many companies coming in now that will be announcing, or that will announce themselves. We don't have to be with them to do it, but they'll be announcing. And as I said, small business optimism took a 41-point jump. 41 points. It went up 41 points. That's unheard of, and that's the biggest they think in recorded history. But they know at least a minimum of 39 years, so that's great. But on behalf of the American people, I want to thank Masa for his faith in what's happening with our country and what's happening with the world. There's a whole light over the entire world. Many people, some reporters, in speaking to them, they said, you know, it actually is true. A couple of them are not necessarily friends of mine, but they said it is actually true that there's a light shining over the world. We're trying to help very strongly in getting the hostages back, as you know, with Israel and the Middle East. We're working very much on that. We're trying to get the war stopped, that horrible war that's going on in Ukraine, with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to, we've got a little progress. It's a tough one. It's a nasty one. It's nasty. People are being killed at levels that nobody's ever seen. You know, it's very level fields, and the only thing that stops a bullet is a body, a human body. And the number of soldiers that are being killed on both sides is astronomical. I've never seen anything like that. And rapidly, I get reports every week, and it's not even, you know, it's like just they're going down. Nobody's seen anything like it. It's a very flat surface, a very flat land. That's why it's great farming land. It's the breadbasket for the world, actually. But it's very flat, and there's nothing to stop a bullet but a body. There's no protection, no nothing, and it's what's happening there is far worse than people are reporting for both sides. So we're going to do our best, and we've been doing our best, and we'll see what happens. But since the election, I've been working every day to put the world at ease a little bit, to get rid of the wars. We had no wars when I left office, and now it's the whole world is blowing up. But there's great optimism, and you saw that by SoftBank. Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We had it in my term. We had the greatest economy that the world had seen. We were blowing away everybody. Our country was doubling up on China, doubling up on everybody, and everybody knows it. And then we had to slow it down with COVID, unfortunately, at the end. But even then, I gave it back with a substantial increase of the stock market, bigger than it was pre-COVID, so it was pretty amazing. Already preparations are underway to slash massive numbers of job-killing regulations, eliminating 10 old regulations for every new one. You put a new regulation on, you have to get rid of 10, and we'll be able to do it. And that was about the percentage we had. We cut more regulations than any president has ever cut by far, actually, by approximately 5 times. Some of those regulations, unfortunately, were put back on, but we'll catch up very quickly. We'll catch up with it. One of the things I'd like to ask the Biden administration, as you probably heard, there are 2 events that took place. We're talking about a friendly takeover, a friendly transition, as they like to say. This is a friendly transition, and it is, but there are 2 events that took place that I think are very terrible. One is that if people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that so that for 5 years, people don't have to come back into the office. It involved 49,000 people. For 5 years, they don't have to go. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous. So it was like a gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in court to stop it. The other thing is really terrible. We spent a tremendous amount of money on building the wall. The wall was designed specifically by the Border Patrol because it's very hard to climb. They need to have see-through. They need it to be steel because you can't cut. It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. It's a special type of steel, but very, very hard to cut. Inside the steel, as you know, we pour concrete, and that's a grade 10 concrete, which is a very strong concrete, very as though you were building about a 60-story building. It's very powerful concrete. They've made tremendous technology advances in the word concrete. Who would think that? But I know that from the construction industry. Today, what you can do with concrete is incredible. So we have a very strong concrete. And then we have a rebar. We put rebar inside the concrete, and the rebar likewise is very hard to cut. So it's a very expensive process, very expensive wall. And then we put a anti-climb plate on the top. You saw that. And I didn't like the look of it, but then when I watched, we had people testing. We had mountain climbers actually testing, and they were not able to get over the anti-climb plate. So I said, all right, I guess we're going to put it on. That plate on top, which I never loved the look of it, but it works so unbelievably well, you have to do it. So we spent a lot of money on building it, and we have hundreds of miles that we put up. A lot of people don't realize, but we did 571 miles of wall. That's why we had such good records, in addition to the fact that Mexico helped us with their military. They kept people out, and they were actually very good under the past leader. But now we ordered an additional 200 miles of wall. It's very expensive. And now it's about double the price of what it would have been 6 years ago. And the administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars, because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just, as you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, and that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar, and they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it cost us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies, and then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed. And this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with common sense. We won on common sense, and this is maybe one of the most egregious examples I've seen. So the people that are buying it or trying to buy it are trying to make a deal with us to sell it back at hundreds of times more than we paid. And this is all because the Democrats. So I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier, and it worked. That's why our numbers were so good. It really worked, and it worked well. And it's very expensive to do. And I'm asking Joe Biden to stop his people from giving it away. It's something that people can't even believe is happening. So hopefully Joe will be able to stop it. We'll soon unleash American energy, and this will be done at levels not seen before, issuing quick approvals for pipelines, drilling, and other infrastructure. It'll be clean energy, and we'll bring in the price of electricity, and we're going to bring it down fast. We're also going to create clean coal. Clean coal is something that has really taken over. We have coal that will last for over 1,000 years. We have so much coal, and with a process, it becomes clean coal. It's very powerful energy, unlike wind. It's very, very powerful, and we're going to be doing a lot of clean coal for the people of West Virginia and others, Wyoming, so many states. We have great states, and they'll be happy to hear it. But we're going to be very much into clean coal. I don't ever use the word coal. I use the word clean coal. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for American families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. As you know, we're giving tax cuts if they do it here. We brought it down from 44%, 42%. In some cases, it was 39%. We brought it all the way down to 21%. And now we're bringing it down to 15%, but only if they make their product, their car, or whatever they're doing in the United States, in the U.S. And people are thrilled. I've had the smartest people on Wall Street call me. They said, "Where'd you get that idea?" And it doesn't seem that complicated, right? But it's it's like the paperclip. Nobody ever thought of it. One guy thought of it. Everybody looked at it. They said, "Wow, that was a good idea. Why didn't I think of it?" But we're bringing it down 6 more points, and that will put us really at the best level we've ever had for bringing in business. We've never been down to that level. We'll be among the lowest taxed states, and a lot of businesses are going to come in. Between that and our taxing and tariff policies, we're going to have business like nobody's ever seen in this country before. That's why we're having a 41-year record in optimism from small businesses and big businesses. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. Any business that invests $1 billion or more in the United States will be eligible for fully expedited permits and approvals, including environmental approvals from the federal government. So when companies come in, if they're going to invest $1 billion or more, there'll be many of them, and they'll go into Detroit, and they'll go into a lot of places where we want them. You saw how well I did with the auto workers. We did unbelievably. You saw how well we did with the Teamsters, and also the non-union were record 98%, 97%. Nobody's ever got numbers like that because we're bringing business back, and they're all coming back. We lost them over years of stupidity, I call it. I call it the years of stupidity, the decades of stupidity. Through the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk has been working very hard with various people, including Vivek. We're going to eliminate hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud, and I can only tell you, I'll give you a little early report, they're finding things that you wouldn't even believe. So we're looking to save maybe $2 trillion, and it'll have no impact. Actually, it'll make life better, but it'll have no impact on people. It's not like we will never cut Social Security or things like that. It's just waste, fraud, and abuse. And we'll immediately restore the sovereign borders of the United States and stop illegal immigration, which is costing us, I believe, trillions of dollars a year. I think it's a cost that nobody's ever seen anything like it. I don't know how can you be satisfied releasing prisoners into the United States. Think of this. You're releasing prisoners from jails all over the world, not just in South America. From the Congo, I would talk about it all the time. They're a very big sender of people. But from all over the world, they're sending prisoners out of their jails. Some of their jails are empty, and they will be empty soon if this ever continued. I spoke with the president of Mexico, and as you know, I spoke with Justin Trudeau of Canada, and we told them it's not fair, not right. You can't let these people come into our country. And they understand. They're very much on notice. And they're going to have to stop this from happening. They're going to have to stop it. We lose a lot of money to Mexico. We lose a lot of money to Canada, tremendous amount. We're subsidizing Canada. We're subsidizing Mexico. That can't go on. And I get along with the people of Mexico and Canada very well, but we can't let that happen. Why are we supporting and giving other countries hundreds of billions of dollars? It's not fair. It's not right. And the people of Mexico and Canada fully understand that. We've talked about it before, but now we're doing something about it. We started, and then we had to fix the COVID situation, and that's what we did. But now we're doing it. We're doing it from the beginning. Howard will be largely in charge. We'll be working on it together. Howard's terrific. He's done a fantastic job, and he's really helped us a lot with transition. I think we have fantastic people coming in. So all of these policies will help us rapidly defeat inflation, create millions of new jobs, and put money in the pockets of the hardworking families of our country, pay off debt. We're going to be paying off a tremendous amount of debt. We're $36 trillion. You don't want to be there. And we're going to be using a lot of the money that we make. We're going to be opening up a lot of businesses that are going to be pouring in because of our tax policy. And we're going to use the money that we made to pay off debt and to reduce taxes. We're going to further reduce taxes. If you remember when we reduced them last time, that brought a tremendous amount. We brought it down to 21%, and that was the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And nobody ever thought this would happen, but this is what's supposed to happen. We actually ended up taking in more revenue at 21 than we did at 40%, which was pretty amazing. But this will be the most exciting and successful period of reform and renewal in all of American history, maybe of global history. The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be. And we hope we don't have any intervening problems, because things happen. Like out of nowhere came the China virus. Out of nowhere came other things we don't want to have. You know, when I left, we had no wars. We had no problems. The Middle East was good. We did the Abraham Accords. We did things that nobody thought were even possible. But think of it, 4 years ago, we had no wars. You didn't have Russia going into Ukraine. They wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about it. When they saw what happened in Afghanistan, I think they gave them an idea. But they wouldn't have done it. They would have never gone. President Putin would have never gone in. And now you look at all those people are dead. All those cities are destroyed. You know, it's nice to say they want their land back, but the cities are largely destroyed. They've left Kiev because probably maybe they want to use it or occupy it, but they haven't done it. They've done a lot of damage, but relatively compared to the other cities, very little. But many of those cities are gone. Those beautiful towers, those beautiful buildings that they had are now laying on their sides, destroyed, totally destroyed. The turrets and all of the magnificent 1,000-year-old, 2,000-year-old structures that were very strong are blown to smithereens. You look at some of those cities and not one building standing. So, you know, when you say take over the country, take over what? Take over what? That's a 100-year rebuild. Take 100 years to rebuild it, and you can never have it the way it was. What a shame. It should have never happened. It would have never happened. If I were president, that war would have never happened. Nor would Israel have happened with the attack on Israel. So we're inheriting big challenges at home and all over the world. Again, we had no wars. We had no problems. We had no inflation. We had it less than 1%. Perfect number. And then we had inflation, the likes of which I don't believe the country's ever seen inflation like that. They say 38 years. I don't know. I think it's probably ever. But we're going to take care of all of it. We're going to get the prices down by energy. The energy is going to come in. We have more energy than anybody else. We're going to use it. We don't have to buy energy from Venezuela when we have 50 times more than they do. It's just insane what we're doing. So we will not rest until America is richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. And we have a big head start. Last time we didn't. And last time we didn't know the people. We didn't know a lot of things. But by the time we got it up and going, it was incredible. Again, we built the greatest economy in history for that period of time. And we'll do it again, I believe, substantially more so. Because we understand, number one, the people of Washington I know them. I didn't know any of them virtually. I relied on other people for recommendations. Some were very good recommendations. We had some great people. Bob Lighthizer, I thought, was great. We had a lot of great people. And but we had some people that I wouldn't have used in retrospect, and now I know them better than anybody, better than they know themselves. So once again, I'd like to thank Masa for what he's done with that investment, which will end up being $200 billion, I believe. But I just want to thank him. He's just an outstanding man. When you have that kind of brain power wanting to invest in this country, and that's money that he can't invest elsewhere. So that's a big investment, but makes me feel very good. Makes me feel that we're absolutely on the right track. So thank you, Tomasa, and we'll take a couple of questions. Yeah, please. Jeff?
Mr. President, you mentioned the wars. Can you tell us what you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu in your call on Saturday?
Yeah.
And have you spoken to President Putin since your election?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the Putin question, but I will comment on Bibi. We had a very good talk. We discussed what is going to happen, and I'll be very available on January 20th, and we'll see. As you know, I gave warning that if these hostages aren't back home by that date, all hell's going to break out, and very strong. But we generally just discussed. I asked him, where are things? Mike Waltz they're doing a great job, by the way. Everybody is very happy. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But he was very much involved in the call. But it was a recap call more than anything else.
President, how do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
Who?
How do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you got to be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute. Do you want to know the truth? But we did them, and that had an impact. But TikTok had an impact, and so we're taking a look at it. But you know, we won youth. Republicans are always 30 points down in youth. I don't know why, but we ended up finishing. There was one poll that showed us down about 30. We were 35 or 36 points up with young people. So I have a little bit of a warm spot in my heart, I'll be honest. Yes,
President, are you entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities? Against Iran's nuclear
Well, I
facilities?
can't tell you that.
Would you?
I mean, it's a wonderful question, but am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that? Say it.
Would you be in support of Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear
How could I
facilities?
tell you a thing like that now? It's just so you don't talk about that before something may or may not happen. You know, just I don't want to insult you. I just think it's just not something that I would ever answer having to do with there or any other place in the world.
President Trump.
Time magazine interview. Can I ask, just clearly, do you believe there's a connection between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
Well, I don't look. Right now, you have some very brilliant people looking at it. I had dinner the other night with the head of Pfizer, the head of Eli Lilly, and RFK, as you know, and Oz. And we had, and other people within the administration that are involved in the medical. And we're looking to find out, you know, if you look at autism, so 30 years ago we had, I've heard numbers of like 1 in 200,000, 1 in 100,000. And now I'm hearing numbers of 1 in 100. So something's wrong. There's something wrong. And we're going to find out about it.
What about the
Can I follow up on Robert Kennedy? He's on the Hill today. He's meeting with senators. What do you say to people who are worried that his views on vaccines will translate into policies that will make their kids less safe?
No, I think he's going to be much less radical than you would think. I think he's got a very open mind, or I wouldn't have put him there. He's going to be very much less radical. But there are problems. I mean, we don't do as well as a lot of other nations, and those nations use nothing. and we're going to find out what those problems are. And another thing that came up, the dinner was fascinating because I had Bobby and I had, again, the head of Pfizer. You know who that is. He's a highly respected man who has run an incredible company. Likewise with Lilly, the top two people. And we had the head of the industry also. So all companies were represented. And I said, let's have it out now a little bit. And you know what came out of that meeting is that we're paying far too much because we're paying much more than other countries. And we have laws that make it impossible to reduce. And we have a thing called the middleman. You know the middleman, right? The horrible middleman that makes more money, frankly, than the drug companies, and they don't do anything except they're a middleman. We're going to knock out the middleman. I'm going to be very unpopular after that statement.
Mr. President,
What about the
I don't know who these middlemen are, but they are rich as hell. And we're going to knock out the middlemen. We're going to get drug costs down at levels that nobody has ever seen before. And that really, I tell you, we spent more time talking about that with Bobby and with the executives and Oz, all of them. We spent more time talking about that than anything else.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Thanks, President Trump. What about the polio vaccine?
Well, I'm a big believer in it, and I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
Do you think schools should mandate vaccines? Do you think schools should mandate vaccines?
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person. So, you know, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, you know, in retrospect, they made a big mistake having to do with the education of children. You know, they lost like a year or 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
So is that something you'd want to?
Mr. President,
Yes, please.
Do you expect Ron DeSantis to appoint Laura Trump to Senator Marco Rubio's seat?
No, I don't. I probably don't, but I don't know. Ron's doing a good job. That's his choice, nothing to do with me. Laura's unbelievable. I mean, she was incredible. The job she did at the RNC as chairman, along with Michael Whatley, the combination. But I can just speak for Laura. She is so highly respected by women. I mean, even her workout routines are through the roof. She lifts 150 pounds. I don't know how the hell she does it. She's a bad example for men and women's sports because I wouldn't be able to beat her, I don't believe. I'd try like hell. But no, she's an incredible woman. And, you know, it's funny, people oftentimes talk about nepotism. I never had, when I put her there, people said, how did you get her to do it? You know, she could have run for the Senate in North Carolina. Ted Budd would be the first to say. And he wouldn't have run. Nobody would have run. And she just said, no, I want to really focus on my children. When the election, and my family, she has a great family. When the election started getting closer, I asked her, would she go to Washington and work on the, you know, as chairman of the committee along with Michael Whatley. And they did such an unbelievable job, especially on cheating. They stopped it, or at least they stymied it. Too big to rig. And we won in a landslide. You know, we won tremendously. She did an amazing job. Now Ron is going to have to make, because Marco has been really a star already, and we haven't started, but you know, we see signs of from some people, or very early, we see signs of stardom, and Marco has done incredibly. He's sort of born for it. It was such an easy decision. The Marco decision was such an easy, but he leaves a vacancy in Florida, and Ron's going to have to make that decision, and he'll make the right decision. I also know that Laura's got so many other things. I mean, she's got so many other things. People want her to be on television. They want to give her contracts. You know, her predominant thought is our country and her family. Those are her thoughts. But she's got so many other things that she's talking about.
Mr. President.
He'll make the right decision.
Mr. President.
Should senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
If they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I could see that happening. But I do believe that if they're I think we have great people. The Marco decision was such an easy, but he leaves a vacancy in Florida, and Ron's going to have to make that decision, and he'll make the right decision. I also know that Laura's got so many other things. I mean, she's got so many other things. People want her to be on television. They want to give her contracts. You know, her predominant thought is our country and her family. Those are her thoughts. But she's got so many other things that she's talking about.
Mr. President.
He'll make the right decision.
Mr. President.
Should senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
If they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I could see that happening. But I do believe that if they're I think we have great people. I think we have a great group of people. Pam has been unbelievably received. You take a look, Pam Bondi. So many have been just unbelievably received. I think Pete Hegseth is making tremendous strides over the last week. He's going to be great. Look, he went to Princeton, he went to Harvard, he was a great student there, but he really was, from the first day I met him, all he wanted to talk about was military. He's just a military guy. I think it's a natural. This was my idea. And you know, Pete Hegseth gave up a lot because he was going big places in Fox, big places, a lot of money, and he didn't even hesitate. When I said, do you want to do this? He said, absolutely. I said, you know, if it doesn't work out, you'll never have the opportunity that you have right now in terms of the world of entertainment or business, whatever you want to call it. You'll never have that opportunity again. In fact, it could be just the opposite because it's nasty out there. He said, I don't care. I have to do it for my country. He gave up a tremendous amount. If this didn't work, it would be a tragedy. Because, but that's what he loves. He loves the military. I never talked to him about anything else. He'd talk about the military. He'd come to see me about a soldier that was unfairly treated, and could I help? That's the only thing I virtually ever talked to him about. And I always remembered it. I've seen him many times, and I don't think I've ever had a subject on anything other than military with him. That's where his love is. And he didn't say, well, I'd like to think about it. I'd like to talk to my family. He said, not even a contest. And, you know, he was going through the roof over there. He was doing great. They have the #1 show that Saturday and Sunday with Will and Rachel. That was great chemistry. And if this didn't work out for him, it would be actually sort of tragic. Yeah.
Would you consider pardoning Eric Adams?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly. Now, I haven't seen the gravity of it all, but it seems, you know, like being upgraded in an airplane many years ago. I know probably everybody here has been upgraded. They see you're all stars, and they say, I want to upgrade that person from NBC. I'm going to upgrade him. And that would mean you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. I don't know. Somehow,
I hope not.
I mean, I'd have to see it because I don't know the facts. I think he was treated, you know, it's very interesting. When he essentially went against what was happening with the migrants coming in. And, you know, he made some pretty strong statements like, this is not sustainable. I said, you know what, he'll be indicted soon. And I said it, not as a prediction, a little bit lightheartedly, but I said it. I said, he's going to be indicted. And a few months later, he got indicted. So, yeah, I would certainly look at it. Yes.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the drones?
With 900 troops in Syria, are you planning on pulling them when you get into office, or will you make?
Well, you know, we had 5,000 troops along the border, and I asked a couple of generals, so we have an army of 250,000 in Syria, and you had an army of 400,000. They have many more people than that. Turkey is a major force, by the way, and Erdogan is somebody I got along with great, but he has a major military force, and his has not been worn out with war. It hasn't been worn out with all of the other things. I mean, he's built a very strong, powerful army. And so we have 5,000 soldiers in between a 5 million person army and a 250,000 person army. And I asked the general, what do you think of that situation? He said, they'll be wiped out immediately. And I moved them out because, and I took a lot of heat. And you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing. I saved a lot of lives. Now we have 900. They put some back. But 900, if you're talking about two, now one of the sides has been essentially wiped out, but nobody knows who the other side is. But I do. You know who it is? Turkey. Okay? Turkey's the one behind it. He's a very smart guy. They've wanted it for thousands of years, and he got it. And those people that went in are controlled by Turkey. And that's okay. It's another way to fight. But no, I don't think that I want to have our soldiers killed. But I don't think that will happen now anyway because the one side's been decimated.
Mr. President, I want to ask you a question about the drones.
Of the
Is the
drones?
president concerned about more unrest in that region, or do you think it will calm?
Well, nobody knows what the final outcome is going to be in the region. You know, nobody knows who really the final. I believe it's Turkey, and I think Turkey is very smart. He's a very smart guy, and he's very tough. But Turkey did an unfriendly takeover without a lot of lives being lost. I can say that Assad was a butcher. What he did to children. You remember I attacked him with the 58 missiles, unbelievable missiles coming from ships 700 miles away, and every one of them hit their target. But I did that. That was the red line in the sand. Obama drew it, and then he refused to honor what he did. He said, if anybody goes across the red line, and Assad killed many more children after that, and Obama did nothing, but I did. I hit him with a lot of missiles. In fact, President Xi was sitting here the night he was in that dining room having chocolate cake. Remember the famous chocolate cake? But and that's when I explained what we were doing as the missiles were shot. And it was amazing as to precision because every one of those missiles hit its target from a long distance away. Had President Obama drawn the line and where it meant something, you wouldn't have even had Russia there. But in the end, I never understood why Russia went there. They were not getting very much out of it. But now their time is taken up with Ukraine, and we'd like to get them to stop on Ukraine, and Ukraine stop also. As you know, when I went to the cathedral, which was fantastic, the job that they've done in France, and the job that Macron, Emmanuel he did a phenomenal job on the rebuilding of that cathedral. It's magnificent, and they did a great thing. And they had great respect for our country. They treated me, meaning I'm the country, I'm the representative of our country, and we were treated with great respect. And one of the people that came to pay his respects is, as you know, Ukraine, Zelensky. And he would like to have peace. He wants peace. Everyone's being killed. It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. I've had pictures of fields where bodies are lying on top of bodies. Looks like the old pictures of the Civil War, where just bodies are all over. Just if you saw those pictures, you'd feel more strongly about it. It's got to stop. And we're trying to get it to stop. Well, we're gonna see. We're going to be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to the representatives, Zelensky, and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it. It's carnage.
What about the fear here at home of the drones?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows, and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have
getting
any
regular
reason to think they're a
intelligence
threat?
briefings?
Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides, and something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago, it's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that. I have friends from many years ago, and they have, obviously, they're still in not such good shape because of it. And many people died. And the moment they took that vaccine, it ended. Dr. Jonas Salk did a great job, so I don't anticipate that at all. But we're going to look into finding why is the autism rate so much higher than it was 20, 25, 30 years ago. I mean, it's 100 times higher. There's something wrong, and we're going to try finding that. We're also going to find out why are we paying more than other countries. And we were in the process of doing that through transparency and other things. We were doing a good job in that first term, and we brought it down. We got the $35, all of the different things. We got, we were the ones that got all of that done. Every one of those things, we got them done. I said, I hope I win, because otherwise somebody's going to take a lot of credit for what we did. But now what happens is we're gonna have a big conversation on price. Why is it that Germany and UK and other countries are paying so much more for the same box of medicine made in the same plant? Why is it that we're paying many times more? And I know the answer, because our government didn't do what they were supposed to do. And what I put in place was terminated unexpectedly by the Biden administration, and they shouldn't have terminated it. It would have had a huge impact.
And Mr. President, one quick question. On Ukraine, you mentioned that some of the areas are already decimated. Do you believe that Ukraine should cede territory to Russia?
Well, I'm going to let you know that after I have my first meeting. But a lot of that territory, when you look at what's happened to those, I mean, there are cities that there's not a building standing. It's a demolition site. There's not a building standing. So people can't go back to those cities. There's nothing there. It's just rubble. Just like when I knocked down a building in Manhattan, which is actually, this is worse, actually, because we do it step by step. This thing has just got demolished. And by the way, in those buildings are many people. Many people were in those buildings. When they say the number in Ukraine is going to be a much higher number of death, is going to be a much higher number than you're hearing. They're big buildings. That's what I did very well. And these are very long buildings. They're 15 to 20 stories high. They're massive buildings. I was surprised at how big. And they're flattened like a pancake. 1 or 2 bombs hit them, and they just collapsed. And they'd say, nobody was hurt. Well, nobody knows who was in those buildings. There were a lot of people in those buildings. They're going to find that when they start doing the removal. Many more people are being killed in the Ukraine war with Russia than is being reported, and that includes soldiers. The soldiers are being, it's a carnage that we haven't seen since the Second World War. It's got to be stopped. And I'm doing my best to stop it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
You had a meeting with Mrs. Abe yesterday, but Japanese Prime
Mrs. Abe.
Mrs. Abe, yeah. And Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba is hoping to have a meeting anytime soon.
I will do that. In fact, I sent him a memento. I sent him a book, the Prime Minister. But Mrs. Abe was very close with our First Lady, with Melania, and she loved Melania's book. And she called and wanted to know if she could have. I was very close to the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe. He was great. He was a great man. And his wife wanted to know if it would be possible to have dinner. And it was just out of respect to Shinzo. And yes, I'd love to see the Prime Minister, and we will do that. I actually sent him a book and some other things for him through Mrs. Abe.
Will that happen before the inauguration day?
It could. If they'd like to do that, I would do that, yeah.
Sir, President Trump, just to clarify.
No, I have great respect for the position, and if he'd like to do that, I'd be here.
Mr. President, you have the border that Ambassador to Japan will be George Glass. Is that your final decision?
Highly respected man. That's right. Highly respected. He's been an ambassador before. Did a fantastic job. We consider Japan very important. He's very highly respected. Okay, couple of
Which other world leaders have you invited to the
Next question about the border.
inauguration? Which other world leaders have you invited to the inauguration?
The world leaders are calling me, and some
Are they
really
coming?
would like to meet. No, I mean literally, they're calling me, and I'll be seeing some of them. I think it's rude not to. I mean, it's hard to say I'm not going to see you, and I've spoken to way over 100 where they called to congratulate on not only the election but the size of the election, the extent of the victory, and they were great. I mean, I spoke to over 100 countries. You wouldn't believe how many countries there are. And I'm trying the best I can to get back to everybody, but there are a lot of countries, and every one of them, literally everyone called, and it was very nice. So, yeah, I'd see some if some felt it was an emergency. I've seen, as you know, I've seen President Zelensky. He came to France while I was there for the cathedral opening. They actually had about 70 presidents and prime ministers, and in one case, a king, we saw some great people. I also met with William, and I was very impressed by William. I think William is terrific. I was very impressed by William. As you know, I met with him, too.
Are you
President Trump,
the border,
ask me a
please,
question
sir.
about that.
No, can I ask you about the-
Did you invite Zelensky to the inauguration?
No, but if he'd like to come, I'd like to have him. I mean, I didn't invite him, no.
Are you
President
disappointed
Trump,
China
can I ask you a
Xi
question
can't
about
come
the
to the
conversation on the
inauguration?
border?
Are you disappointed that China Xi won't be at the inauguration?
I don't know that he won't be at the inauguration. I mean, I haven't really spoken to him about it. I don't know that, actually. I would say that if he'd like to come, I'd love to have him. But there's been nothing much discussed. I have had discussions with him, letters, et cetera, at a very high level. You know, we had a very good relationship until COVID. COVID didn't end the relationship, but it was a bridge too far for me. But if he'd like to come, I'd certainly be.
Have you spoken to Venezuela?
He hasn't, just so you understand, he hasn't said one way or the other. Because a
Have you
lot of
spoken
people
to
say
Venezuela?
he won't come, he will come. People think he will come, he won't come. It's something we barely discussed, just about didn't discuss. But I have had, especially through letters, some very good conversations.
Have you had conversations with Venezuela, sir?
You know, because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. And, you know, he was a friend of mine. I mean, he was here for a long time, right in that spot, except sitting in a very comfortable chair. He wasn't standing like you are. But we spent hours and hours talking. And, you know, he's an amazing guy.
Have you spoken to Venezuela?
The press hates when I say that, but he's an amazing
Have you
person.
spoken to anyone in
President
Venezuela,
Trump,
sir?
can I ask you about,
On the border, if I could just ask you on the border.
United
Hold on one second,
Healthcare
Gary.
shooting,
Real quick.
the United Healthcare shooting, the
I think
shooting of the
it's
CEO.
terrible.
Can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of
Well,
the
I
reaction
think
around
it's
the
terrible.
suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I
think
think
about
it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, thing like that, you can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news, I don't know, it's hard to believe that that can even be thought of, but It seems that there's a certain appetite for him. I don't get it. Yeah, please.
Could you just comment on?
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that...
Or newspapers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders, and we need fair elections. You look at California, millions and millions of ballots were sent out. They're still counting the vote in California with the machines. They're counting the vote. If you had paper ballots, the votes would have been counted 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Now, you need fair elections, you need borders, and you need a fair press. And the press is, no, I see others. I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was, way up, an easy win. Never even thought to go there. I respect them, I love them, and they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it from way up, walk away, which it was, and it turned out to be in the election too, by the way. It was a win by many, many points. And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before, and everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where I was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register, and it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud, and it was election interference. You know, she's gotten me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And she then quit before. And we'll probably be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News. So as you know, we're involved in that one. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward, where he didn't quote me properly from the tapes. And then on top of everything else, he sold the tapes, which he wasn't allowed to do. He could only use them for reporting purposes, not for sale purposes. And he admits that. And I think we'll be successful on that one. And we have one very interestingly on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax. Well, it turned out to be a hoax, and they were exactly wrong. People, like many people, John Solomon, Sean Hannity's not for Pulitzer, but Sean Hannity got it right. Many people got it right. Tucker got it right. Jesse got it right. Laura got it right. Janine got it right. A lot of people got it right. They didn't get anything. They gave it to reporters that got it absolutely wrong. And now everybody admits it was a hoax. And I want them to take back the Pulitzer Prizes and pay big damages. And I think we're doing very well on that one. They have no excuse for it. They gave a Pulitzer Prize to writers that got Russia wrong. And so I think we're doing well. And I feel I have to do this. I shouldn't really be the one to do it. It should have been Justice Department or somebody else, but I have to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it, but we have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections.
Are you worried about Venezuela? Sir, if you had any discussions with Venezuela?
For January 6th defendants, you had said in the first few minutes of your administration you want to issue pardons for January 6th defendants. Does that include, will that be a blanket pardon? Does that include
Well, you'll find
everyone?
out, but it's going to go quickly.
And just to follow up on your
Have you had any
answer on
discussions,
Ukraine.
sir, with in terms of your mass deportation plans? Have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll
across the
take them
country?
back.
They're going to take them back.
They're all taking them back, yep. And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours they were behaving very well. They'll all take them back.
And separately, can I ask a follow-up
Jeff?
on that?
Nice to see you, Jeff. This is like the old days, right?
nice to see you too.
You've actually look much better now than you did 4 years ago. What are you doing? What's he doing? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The first day you just mentioned that you're in office, I imagine you've got some executive orders that you're
Yeah, a
going
lot
to
of
go through. Can you tell us what your
We'll have a lot. Well,
what are your priorities?
I'll bet you could tell. You could say as well as I could. We will have many executive orders and other things that we'll be signing on the first day.
Can you also, just going back to my initial question about the Middle East, you said that your conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu was kind of a review. Did you repeat
We
that
just had a
threat?
very good conversation, and you know the real conversations will start on the 20th. But we had a really good conversation, and I think we're going to be in a good place in the Middle East. I think the Middle East will be in a good place. I think actually more difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult.
When you say there will be
I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, you know, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does. But that did a lot of bad things. I don't think that should have been allowed. Not when there's a possibility, and certainly not just weeks before I take over. Why would they do that without asking me what I thought? I wouldn't have had them do that. I think that was a big mistake they made.
Will you reverse that decision when you're in office to let those
I might, yeah.
missiles be
I thought it was a very stupid thing to do.
And when you
So
say
do you have any
that-
reaction
just
to
one
Duke
last one on
Cross?
this, when you say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th, what does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But it means it won't be pleasant.
Mr. President,
It's not,
how was your meeting?
it's not going to be pleasant, yeah?
How was your meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook, and did you talk about tariffs in that meeting?
Meeting with who?
Apple CEO Tim Cook.
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something. But I had, as you know, I had Sundar from Google, but I also had Sergey. Nobody reported that. Sergey is the owner, the primary owner, along with his friend, as you know. And Sergey was here also. I can't believe you didn't pick that one up. Nobody picked that up. But I will tell you, no, it's a big difference. The big difference is that the first time everybody was fighting me on all fronts. And we had a great administration. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, rebuilt the military. Too much of it was given away to Afghanistan, stupidly given away, horribly given away. I think that's one of the reasons that Putin went in to Ukraine when he saw the stupidity of Milley and these guys. They're stupid people, very stupid people. If they didn't do such a bad, you know, we were pulling out of Afghanistan, but I would have pulled out with dignity and strength. They wouldn't be having parades, I guarantee you, showing our equipment that they left behind, because we weren't going to leave any equipment behind, not 10 cents. We were going to take every screw and every bolt. Yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, you know, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. So Tim Cook was here. I think he's done an incredible job at Apple, and he talked about the future of Apple. It's going to be a bright future. But we have many others also, and not in that business. And we do have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, coming in sometime during the week. I look forward to that. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite. In the first one, and the press has covered that fairly, actually, for change. The first one, they were very hostile. And maybe it was my fault, but I don't really think so. They were just very right from the beginning. And this one is much less hostile. It's really the opposite of hostile.
Can I get your reaction?
Well, you're
on
free to
Duke
give up a
lacrosse, sir?
thought.
I know that you had some, I believe, involvement 18 years ago with the students at Duke accused of rape in the lacrosse. Now we have this development.
I thought it was a hoax when it happened, the Duke situation. I didn't believe the woman, as you know, and they destroyed the lives of these kids. They destroyed, and I don't care what they got. Their lives have been destroyed. Their lives have been shortened by what took place. And now the woman admitted that it never happened. That is a horrible. And as you know, I took a lot of heat when I said that this did not happen. And those kids were beautiful kids with beautiful families, and they were, in some cases, will never be the same. They will never be the same.
Have you talked to them by chance?
Your thoughts on the Postal Service? You mentioned Bezos a second ago, and I've always thought Bezos would be a key person to go in there and really streamline the logistics of the post office, but they lose billions.
Well, there is talk about the Postal Service being taken private. You do know that. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. It really isn't. You know, it's a lot different today with between Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all the things that you didn't have. But there is talk about that. It's an idea that a lot of people have liked for a long time. We're looking at it. I think we're looking at that along with a lot of us. Any questions for Howard, by the way? Commerce.
Sure, I'll ask one. Mr. Incoming Secretary, do you see another trade deal with China coming?
I think the president...
That's a tough one, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's easy for me. You're sitting next to me, so it's okay. No, the president has very clear agenda for tariffs. And I think reciprocity is something that is going to be a key topic for us. How you treat us is how you should expect to be treated.
Would you like to weigh in, sir, on that?
You said it so well, reciprocal. If they tax us, we tax them the same amount. They tax us, forgetting just for a second about the word tax, they tax us, we tax them. And they tax us, almost in all cases, they're taxing us, and we haven't been taxing them.
Is that deal already underway? Is there a deal already underway with respect to that?
Let's just say this, we're going to make great deals, and we have all the cards. And until I came along, don't forget, and Howard was going over the numbers with me last night, we took in $600 billion and more in taxes and tariffs from China. No other president took in 10 cents, not 10 cents, not 10 cents. And we're going to be doing things. We're going to be treating people very fairly. But the word reciprocal is important because if somebody charges us, India, we don't have to talk about own. If India charges us 100%, do we charge them nothing for the same? You know, they send in a bicycle and we send them a bicycle. They charge us 100 and 200. India charges a lot. Brazil charges a lot. If they want to charge us, that's fine, but we're going to charge them the same thing. That's a big
worried
thing.
about
and you know what? The senators, some of them aren't necessarily business people. When I give that to them, they say, that sounds fair to me.
Are you concerned that tariffs might hurt the stock market rise that you have seen and the economy more broadly?
Make our country rich. Tariffs will make our country rich.
But won't they raise prices?
Properly used. I didn't have any inflation, and I had massive tariffs on a lot of things. We put tariffs on steel. If I didn't put tariffs on steel, 50% and more, they were dumping steel in, China and others. I put tariffs on, and it stopped, and we took a fortune. We made a fortune on it. Tariffs, properly used, which we will do, and being reciprocal with other nations, but it'll make our country rich. Our country right now loses to everybody. Almost nobody do we have a surplus with. There are a couple of countries, and they're embarrassed by it, but almost nobody. And tariffs will make, I always said, to me, tariffs, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. It'll make our country rich. You go back and look at the 1890s, 1880s, McKinley, and you take a look at tariffs. That was when we were at our proportionately the richest.
Mr. President, agree with the view from...
Did you get to a good spot?
Back on Ukraine, Mr. President. What should Zelensky, if anything, be prepared to give up to end this
He
war?
should be prepared to make a deal. That's all.
Do you have anything
Got to be a
on
deal.
that?
No, got to be a deal. Too many people being killed. That is a war that's hard. Too many people. Got to make a deal. And Putin has to make a deal.
What deal would
Do you think-
what you
Yeah.
Putin has
suggest?
to make a deal, and Putin would have never gone in if I was president. If I was president, we wouldn't have had inflation. Our oil prices would have been lower. I had a good relationship with Putin. He would, despite the Russia hoax, which made it more difficult. If we had that election, if it were an honorable election, we wouldn't have had any of the problems that we're talking about right now. Putin would have never got in.
Based on,
Will you guys make that
based
deal
on
to
your
give up
understanding
this
of it,
office?
Do you still, you said
Will
that you
you
could
ask-
make that deal before you take office. Do you still think you could make that deal?
I'm going to try.
Will you ask
Based on
Putin
your-
to give up Assad?
Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think we have to get on with our lives. We'll have to see what happens. But right now, Syria has a lot of, there's a lot of indefinites. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Syria. But I think Turkey is going to hold the key to Syria, actually. I don't think you've heard that from anybody else, but I've been pretty good at predicting. I want to thank you all, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Howard.
And you can continue to be president.